Not the best of ideas to head straight home, but it was the only place I could think of where I could clear my mind and think. I knew the operation had been a risk, but what actually happened was nothing I could have ever predicted. The very thought of being someone's form of entertainment gave me excruciating shivers all over. I tried to fight the shame and anxiety that followed me by setting light to powder kegs of rage. Even with such explosions and torturous thirst for revenge, I could not drown out the humiliation and fear I had just endured. I felt extraordinarily belittled as this person had outplayed me to the point where I hadn't even known I was a piece in their game. I tried to calm down by telling myself that whoever it was, I would find them and make them suffer. But each time I thought of that voice on the telephone, it became alive in my ears and I'd fall back into a panic. I thought perhaps I was finally losing my grip on reality. Something I must admit I was always a possibility due to the amount of brain damage I have either self-inflicted or had inflicted on me throughout my life through chemical hedonism or violence. Aside from the sound of the voice being dreadfully peculiar, it also exuded such a confidence in its own power that I could not help but feel like an insignificant speck. It was a troublesome feeling, as the last time I had ever felt like that was when I was but a small child at the mercy of a sadistic parent. Finally, I arrived back at the abandoned pub that led to my home. It was still dark and there wasn't a soul to be seen. I rooted around outside, and then inside too, but found no sign of life other than the odd rats. I knew there was still a possibility that my home had been compromised, but I was simply not willing to go and sleep rough because of this newfound nemesis. I was not going to give up my home so easily. I slowly edged my way down through the tunnels that led to my home. With each meter I stopped and listened for any sign of life. All I heard were the soft scuttles of small creatures and the dripping of water. Eventually I reached my humble abode and switched the lights on. I jumped and commando rolled into my kitchen and emerged upright to find that no one was there. I then ran and jumped into my study, but again there was no one to be found. I checked the entirety of my home in the same speedy manner, as pleased to see that is all how it had been before I had left. As soon as I slumped onto my book couch, my mind fell into chaotic ruminations. Different parts of me became disagreeable and unwavering as what I should do. As soon as I thought that packing up and moving home was the right thing to do, another part of myself told me I would be a coward to do so, and remind me of how important my home was to me. So I thought about going out to try to lay a trap for this new foe, but another part of me guffawed at the idea, as I had no clue who it was or how to hunt them. My mind convinced me that I should go and buy a gun, but then I no longer had connections with such people, and I was also reminded that I suddenly didn't have the cash. I just about convinced myself that I should change my appearance, but that idea was quickly dismantled, as someone like good at playing me for a fool would not be so easily tricked by a shaved head or new clothes. My mind then went back to wanting to run away, and the same cycle of thoughts went over and over and over again in my head. I could only let out a frustrated sigh. It seemed clear that I was only going to get nowhere with my ruminations, so I felt that the only thing to do was meditate. I knew it was the only action that could bring me back to some form of equilibrium and focus. I locked and bolted the shop door. Next I went back into my study, sat in the lotus position and started my meditations by focusing on the tips of my nostrils, where the air was brushing by. The cacophony of shouts and screams from my thoughts in my mind slowly quietened, until I processed was feeling my breath and feeling on that tiny part of my nose. I simply sat and felt this focused sensation, nothing more and nothing less. When an hour or two had gone by, I switched to scanning my body, part by body part, from top to bottom and bottom to top. I felt each and every sensation within me, all of which I observed with an equanimity of emotion without reacting to whatever feelings and visualizations and sensations brought to my mind's eye. The day's events played on, like a film stuck on repeat, but my non-reaction to it told my being that there was no need to worry. When my body scan reached my neck, an explosion of strange and intense imagery screamed into view. It seemed far more than a simple projection of the psyche. It was as if the spectator's seat was right in the middle of the whole annihilation. What I saw was a planet and its alien humanoid population of trillions being consumed by a monstrous shimmering black sea from space that crashed into them like roaring rapids. The sea morphed into billions of connected tentacles with fanged mouths, all of different sizes, and all with different sets of insidious-looking jagged teeth. Each mouth then took swift chunks out of a planet and its terrified inhabitants. When the planet looked like nothing more than a peeled fruit, the black sea surrounded it all and shrunk inwards, devouring the planet until it was completely gone. I saw inhabited world after inhabited world consumed like this. Although I could not hear it nor see it, I could feel the sadistic pleasure emanating from this being of infinite power. Oddly, I then sensed the being's joy turn into boredom and dismay about the destruction it caused. The being then appeared to up the ante. Soon its destructiveness was taken to the level of whole solar systems and then galaxies. There were also visions of other equally terrifying creatures and technologically advanced alien civilizations put in a fight against the beast. At times it seemed they had put the monster on the back foot, but it would then somehow gain the upper hand. Such fantastic battles all ultimately led to the beast's adversaries being consumed. Eventually, once again, feelings of boredom emanated from the beast, following its trail of galactic destruction. In its frustration, the thing took its violence to yet another level, and the obliteration continued until the whole universe was consumed. Even when the universe toppled on its whim, I felt once more that the being had become bored. It was as if it said, "Is that it?" Hence it moved on to other universes. Universe after universe was eventually gobbled up, but the boredom always inevitably set in. So it moved on to what I could only fathom were dimensions, as such chaotic physical size did not make sense to me. It tore through what appeared to be membranes like paper, and did this until the dimensions were but scraps that were easily licked up by its army of ravenous mouths. My last shreds had been eaten up, the same feelings of tedium shot through the being, and then suddenly I was back to what seemed to be my own psyche. I was able to stay zen-like throughout the whole ordeal by simply observing with non-reactivity. That was when the day's events again jumped into view and tried to goad me into paying them further attention. When I started the body scan back down rather than being propelled back into such cosmic insanity again, all I felt was a slight constriction around my neck. It was a peculiar and off-putting sensation, but I stuck my training and did not react. I simply carried on with my organised introspection, jumping between the body scan and the focus on breathing, until I finally felt confident that my mind had calmed down and I had regained focus. I opened my eyes and checked my watch. It had been almost 11 hours of meditation. I was calm, serene, and I was back to a very finely tuned self that was ready to plan its vengeance on whoever the person was that had sought to humiliate me. I was a sharpened blade ready to cut. A sensation of cold shot up through my feet as they touched the concrete floor of the kitchen. But I didn't take heed of the message of discomfort and proceeded to the kettle. I felt each muscle grimace in pain as I moved, but again it's only messages that floated on by without my reacting to them. 5 minutes later, and I had a teapot with a beautiful English breakfast tea blend brewing. After another moment, I took a delicate sip of the tea as I sat at my kitchen table. The feeling of the warm nectar that swished around my mouth was sublime. I closed my eyes and slid down in my chair until I was near horizontal. Just what I needed. The call for another swig of tea was swiftly acknowledged, and I pulled myself back up. I lifted the teacup and sipped. Midway through the gulp, my eyes shot open wide, and I sprayed the tea out of my mouth onto a grinning black Scottish terrier that patiently sat on the table directly in front of me. It looked at me, raised his eyebrows, and then shook the liquid off.
I thought it best to catch you after you meditated, dear boy, as I wanted you to be calm as calm can be. Quite a snug little place you have here, I must say. It's rather quaint.